Right here. Okay. What the hell? Oh, I got to mute that over there. All right. Hey, everybody. Hey, Joe. Let's get Joe in here.
What the hell am I doing here? I thought it was a bad nightmare.
Well, I tell you what, it took us a little bit to get going. We're having technical difficulties again.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just middle minor ones on our end. It has nothing to do with the internet. And then I got some Terminix guy wandering around my yard. I don't know. He was canceled a while back. I think he's about, to me, he looks like he's about 137 years old.
So he's
And
good. Get it?
yeah, he looks like he's 137 years old. Can barely walk around. I don't want him going to the backyard. He lets my dogs out, and I'm not going to be a happy camper. But they give you no notification to come, and they're supposed to be picking up their termite bait traps, and I don't know. Anyways, we just popped on. So let's see who we got here.
Hey, do me a favor before we start. You're not hearing a hum, right?
I just hear a fan. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I found the problem. The problem was with my USB hub because I got the mic directly plugged into the laptop now.
Ah, perfect. All right. So, Joe, welcome aboard.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Just sorry about my background. We got new floors being put in here. So
oh no!
I'm trying to cover things because I look like a hoarder. So
no, yeah, you should see my room.
So you gotta look at my doggy.
No problem. Oh yeah, we've always got the doggies in the show when we can. What's the doggy's name?
Georgie. Sorry.
Georgie. Yeah.
Hey,
Georgie. Anyway, so everybody, we got Joe Krein with us again today, and we're on the discussion of Decoded. He's got an interview that he did with Dick Grobe regarding the chapter that we're getting ready to head into about the heist, the attempted heist to steal the body of the king of rock and roll. Two feeble-minded people trying to carry a 900-pound casket. Oh my God. It's an interesting story. Joe and I talked about it the other day. It's hilarious. The whole thing. So we're going to go through that. I've got my notes put together. I do have. So what we're going to do is I'll let Joe preface the interview a little bit, and then we'll play it. And also that one video that I had that we got kicked off, I got all the music taken out of it. So I'm going to, if we have time, I'm going to play it. It's that BBC autopsy episode. It's got Patrick Lacey in it and Warlick in there, and so I don't know if you've ever seen it, Joe. We tried to watch it, but we got kicked off.
I don't know. I might have, probably did.
Yeah. So, anyways, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. We got right now we're up to 23. We're gonna have what we want to do after last Saturday. I come up with an idea that when you guys want to ask a question in the chat of any of us, especially Joe, since he's visiting with us, start it off with two of the red question marks, and that way we can spot it right away. And we can ask, either Joe will catch it, or I'll catch it, or Cam will catch it, or it'll just flow right on by. we try to keep up with it, but you guys, man, you guys get to chatting, and it's like, But what we're going to do is I'm going to set it up here. I got to get him into this scene, and this will just take a second.
If I take off in a couple of minutes, don't be alarmed. It seems I put 3 teaspoons of coffee instead of 2, so I'm drinking rocket fuel.
You take off. I thought you meant if you had to get up and go and have somebody coming over for a minute.
That tea we're supposed to get together for, Ken. Coming over for tea, Ken.
It was good coffee though, but a little bit on the strong side.
Yeah, I'm trying to move your little QA thing there, and I think I've got the video set up. This one is an interview Joe's holding with Dick Grobe, and I'm going to let him just preface it and tell you a little bit about it, and then we're going to play it. We're going to chat during it. Let me see if I got it.
Okay, Dick, can you tell me what...
Okay, so I got that queued up. Turn the volume down a little bit.
Cassette player.
What's that?
Cassette player.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, we're able to make it out pretty good. So, all right. Give us some history. When was it held? Just give us some background, and then we'll just...
I can't tell you about what year in that. Like I said, I have that memory problem. But
Yeah.
I think this was even done while he was in the car. I was doing something else when Elvis died. I don't know if you, when they were moving the body.
Right.
I think you might have listened to that one yourself or something.
Yeah.
You got into the stealing of the body, the heist of the body, and then his book. Dick was a very nice guy, but sometimes you have to take what Dick had with a grain of salt. He always tried to put himself first, like, well, Joe. The same thing.
Yeah.
Well, he did the same thing, and he was the one that found out about it, and blah, 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 blah. And then Vernon asked him to look into was Elvis killed and all that stuff, which he actually looked into. But he knew himself that it was a bunch of bullshit. That Vernon
Right.
was, worried in that. So I talked to him about it, and that's what you're going to hear.
Okay. Perfect. Now, Cam, you know that you can stop it when you want to, too, right? The pause?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So if you need to stop for anything, Dick, Joe, just, we're talking about Dick Grove. I can start calling you Dick Grove. Just let me know. I'll pause it, and because any comments you have to put in there would be welcome. But I think they're going to really have some questions for you. All right, here we go, guys. A little bit of Joe Krein and Dick Grobe.
Okay, Dick, can you tell me what you were all doing on the 15th, the day before the 16th? Were you just getting ready for the tour?
Well, yeah, we were just, on the 15th, we were just kind of sitting around doing, everybody was doing different things, doing a lot of talking. I spent a lot of time with Elvis that night, sitting and talking with him and telling him about the tour as I usually did. And, just doing the prep work on stuff,
Uh-huh. So when was the last time that you talked to Elvis?
Well, I left him about, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning on the 16th.
Uh-huh.
He was going to go down and play racquetball, and I told him, I said, I got my stuff in the car. You want me to play with you? And he said, no. Billy and Joe Smith and Ginger was going to go down there and play racquetball. He said, you go on home and get some sleep. You got a long, tough tour coming up here. So I left and went home.
Okay.
Went to bed,
Yeah. So now on August the 16th, I know we've done this before on your other one, but it's just working up to it. How did you hear?
Well, I had just gotten up and was drinking a cup of coffee and starting to pack clothes for it when I got a phone call from Tommy Henley. And Tommy told me, he just said, you need to get down to the hospital. And I said, is it bad? He said, yeah, it's bad. So he hung up. I threw some clothes on and jumped in my car and flew down to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Dead air. There should be sound there.
No sound.
There should be
And don't tell me we're going to have
There we
issues
go.
with this today. All right,
There we
I'm
go.
sorry. Sometimes that thing will automatically go on mute. It's not on me. It's just like, I don't know. I got that magnetism that makes things happen on my computer.
obviously, this is more than just the heist. Obviously, we started a little bit earlier.
Yeah. Natalie wanted to know if you found Dick Grobe sketchy.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I think we all do.
Nice guy, but like I said last time I was on, I got a big heart, even for the bad ones.
Yeah.
You know.
No, I mean you got to when you was what you're doing too. You got to. You can't go in there with a well, you can have a preconceived idea, but you've got to be neutral when you're talking with somebody.
Yeah, I mean, there was some I didn't like, as you know, but
Yeah.
I try to like them all, and I don't care what they did. I have to live what I've done.
Right.
You know, they got to live with what they did.
Right. All right.
So what happened at the hospital?
Well, I went into the emergency room there, and they were still working on Elvis, and I was there when they pronounced him dead, and Marion Cock was there. She went over and kissed his forehead, and kind of brushed the hair out of his face a little bit, and
Larry did
then
that.
I took him up to the morgue.
What's that?
I said I thought Larry did that.
I know. That's what I was thinking when Dick said that.
Yeah.
I could just wait. Let's see. Yeah, Dick gave it first. Marion kissed him on the forehead, and then just before they closed the casket, Larry slipped his hand in there.
Had Al Strada was there, as I remember, and Al stood outside after we put him in the morgue and kind of stood guard on the morgue there until we could get the police department people over there.
Now, did Vernon go to the hospital?
No, Vernon did not go to the hospital. Vernon was stayed at home at Graceland. I then met with Maurice Elliott, and who was the administrator of the hospital, and we sent hospital security up to the morgue and to work with Al, and I took the request for an autopsy out to got it from Maurice and took it out to Graceland and had Vernon sign it, and I witnessed it and took it back to the hospital, which, well, what that did was that instead of having the county do the autopsy, which would have made it public record, Vernon did signed and requested the autopsy and paid for it. I forget what it was, maybe $350, $400, something like that. I'm not sure exactly what the amount was anymore. But since the family paid for it and had it done, it remained private and was not subject to anybody, because I didn't want anybody seeing photos of him like you saw John Kennedy and other people whose autopsies have been public information.
Right.
So, and that
He's kind of acting like he was pretty much in control of the whole situation.
That was Dick
Yeah.
Vernon.
I'm just gonna put this out there right at the start. I'm having a real hard time listening to this guy because my bullshit meter is going right over into the red.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
like the first question is, they have hospital staff there. Why would Dick Grobe as an outsider be allowed to take Elvis to the morgue and not somebody from within the hospital? First question.
What it might have been, he might have just been talking. They were walking along with an orderly that was pushing him in. You really don't know.
And the way
It goes on even with it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
and the way he's talking, it sounds like he's creating time in his mind to fabricate the story, because every question you ask him, Joe, he's coming back with and he doesn't sound very confident with his answer, which tells me he's going to fabricate his answers, that it didn't really happen the way it happened. Because if you fell off the bed in a certain way and somebody comes to you even 30 years down the line and you injured yourself from falling off the bed, somebody asks you what pertaining to that incident, you're going to tell them exactly. how it happened and why it happened. You won't need time to fabricate an answer. You're going to say, yeah, I rode to my left side and I fell off the bed. You're not going to sit there and go, no, hang on, I had to unhook the duvet from my foot, and then as I lifted, it's like the guy is pulling the information out of the air.
He's totally different than Marty Lacker. It's just a
Yes.
whole different person. And the thing that I noticed with Dick, and this is one thing that's always stuck in my mind with other people that were storytellers or expanded upon the truth, is he would say something and he'd go, and then he'd say something
Yes.
else and he'd say, like it's so freaking dramatic to him. He paid the $350 for the autopsy, so that nobody would ever be able. It just, I just noticed those little breaths, those little sighs afterwards. It seemed to be not a normal sigh. It's just almost like I don't know.
Well, he's
Not
always.
just,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Joe.
He's always said the same thing, but when you tell a lie, it's hard to go back to that same lie.
Yeah.
That pause just might be saying, "Shit, what did I say last time?"
Yeah.
Because, like I said, Dick liked to put himself first, just like other
Yes.
people.
Yes, and that's one of the main reasons why my BS meter is in the red, because I've never ever found anything that he ever said. No disrespect to the dead, but still, nothing that he ever said did I ever find truthful.
Yeah, I didn't know much about Dick before I started doing all this. Like I said before, I never got into stuff like this. But Cam was telling me I can't. When I told him I got the book Conspiracy, he let me know what he felt about Dick, and I didn't have an opinion about Dick. And but then when I got into Patrick Lacey's book and started reading this stuff compared to what I was already reading in Dick Grove's book, and then I saw some other short little interviews with Dick, I started getting that uneasy feeling. Almost, Cam's got the better BS meter. I'm better at BS, so it just worked out the better that way.
Well, once he lied about his heroic father,
Yeah,
himself in that. I mean, he just,
yeah,
anything after that is questioned. But even when you read his book, which is quite heavy,
yeah,
you can tell that it's him, I did this, Vernon had me do this and do that. You can tell.
yeah,
The irony for me about it all is that they were lucky enough to spend their life with Elvis, period. It shouldn't be necessary for them to have to initiate themselves into every single happening that ever happened. They lived with Elvis almost, almost, pers- permanently. That is enough in my mind. Why should they have the need to always make
yeah.
themselves number one in every situation? They lived there. They traveled with him. That's enough. Surely.
Yeah.
Had more than Joe's mentality. And
Yeah,
that's
yeah. All right, let's pick it up here. Look at the line of good my Lord. Was it 33 of them, wasn't it?
Sorry, you're going to see
Yeah.
my. Sorry, I apologize.
That's all right. No problem. Put the dog away.
Sure.
Okay, back again.
Okay. All right, we're gonna go right into it again. Yeah, wasn't it 33 limos?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. That's a. Gee.
All over
That's
the
why
country.
Go ahead, Joe.
Got them from all over the country, and a lot of people. Who was it? The Elvis Library said they must have had him pre-death because where are they going to get all these? Where did they get all these white Cadillacs from? All
Yeah.
over the country sent them in. All of them. Elvis Presley died. It's not like they had them stacked in a parking lot because we're going to need them.
No.
Take out. I'd be honest with you. The only, I can't even think of a president that had a procession like that.
No.
I remember Kennedy's, but that was a horse-drawn carriage, and I don't know. It's it was, I wasn't there long enough to see that, and sometimes I wish I was, but just the pictures alone sends chills.
Autopsy is still private today is because I did that at that time.
Yeah, no, and I'm sure if you didn't, it wouldn't be so private. Now,
No.
did you guys stay with him all night long, or that was the hospital security stayed with him all night long?
No, we kept hospital security on it all night long until they finished the autopsy, and then he was transferred to the Memphis funeral home.
Mm-hmm.
And we had police on the funeral home there. I'm not sure whether they did the autopsy there or did it at the funeral home.
Yeah, they usually do it at the hospital.
But we took and as soon as he was transferred,
funeral homes don't do autopsies.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of a faux pas on him.
Well, he said he didn't know, so.
Yeah.
remember the exact time he was transferred, but as soon as he was transferred, we had Memphis Police Department personnel on duty at the funeral home while they took care of him.
Was there a crowd at the funeral home at all?
You know, Joe, I don't know. I was never at the funeral home.
Okay.
I had other things to do at Graceland, and I knew Memphis PD was on duty there at the funeral home, and they would take care of any problems, and I never heard of any problems, so I just, there certainly wasn't a very big crowd if there was anybody there.
The reason why I said that about him saying that about the funeral home maybe doing the autopsy is just a sentence or two before he said that they waited at the hospital or they had the hotel security still there until the autopsy was done. So just two sentences before he said it was being done at the hospital and they're waiting around. And then right after that he comes back and he says, I don't know where the autopsy was done. So that's why I made that remark in reference to that. I go, that's kind of two different things. I don't know. It just kind of caught my attention.
You know what's weird about that? Here he was in the, he was a cop.
Yeah.
Right. And he didn't realize he did autopsies at the hospitals. They don't do it at the North.
Yeah, I that's what got me confused about it. And then he says, well, I don't know. So, and like you said, and Cam said too, when you tell the truth, it's the same thing every single time. But when you're asked later in a story, it expands, and you're taking on more things that you did, and now all of a sudden, it's almost like it's all been under his direction and all this, and it's just. But I love hearing what he's got to say about this. But I can't wait till we get to the heist.
Well, I got to say one thing quickly to Joe before we get into the next lot. Joe, you have a lot more patience than I do, buddy, because I'm already going bullshit, and you just taking it in stride, like okay. I wouldn't be able to do that. I would call the guy out.
Not me.
Yeah, that's what I like about some of these. I have a different perspective with interviews as I do like a journalist. I mean, you're there to hear their side of the story. You're not there to pick them apart.
That's That's your job, guys, to pick them apart. I'm just here to hear the story.
Yeah.
I'm inside me going, oh, you're so full of shit.
Yeah. Well, it's like with Marty Lacker last week. We hardly even heard you speak.
No, didn't have to.
He just came out and started talking. Good. All right, here we go.
Yeah. Dick, who picked out the casket?
Vernon did.
Now, did he pick out the same casket on purpose as the one as Gladys's?
Yes, he wanted them in matching caskets.
Pleasant.
Yeah. Now, did you?
Just one thing, I'm surprised he didn't stay in here because he had told me, and was it in his book, that while he was down there and the body was brought to the hospital, he found the photographer underneath the sheet. That's what he
Oh
told me,
yeah.
right?
Mm.
I was going to, he doesn't say it here, but I was, right before I interviewed Stan Thompson, Stan said, you could ask me anything you want, Joe. He said, but don't ask me about the photographer under the sheet. And the only thing I could take from him was Sam knew that Dick was full of shit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, sorry.
No, that's a good point. No, I invite you to drop. Dr. Nick had the autopsy permission form signed by Vernon. I highly doubt Grove's story
Yeah.
concerning the
Yes.
autopsy. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm with Cam right now as far as, but I mean, yeah, I mean, it's good. I like listening to this. This is good.
To mine, I don't ever recall Vernon ever going to the funeral home. That was all done by either telephone or the people from Memphis Funeral Home coming to Graceland.
Oh, that's nice. That's good that they did that. Yeah. Now, whose idea was it for the fans to see Elvis? Was that Vernon's?
Well, I went and asked Vernon what he wanted, and he said, "Well, he said I'd like to have."
Oh, here it came. Well, I. You okay, Cam?
Yeah, I will be.
Okay.
Fans be able to come by and pay their respects. And he said, "Can we do that?" And I said, "Yes, we can do it. We'll set him here in the doorway, and they can pass by." I said, "We'll just take some precautions so that there are no pictures of him in the caskets." And that was set up. Something Vernon wanted,
Mm-hmm. Did you ever think that you might have saw the person that got that damn picture? They question now that that's even a real picture.
Well, no, that was taken inside, and it was not taken during the public viewing. It was taken inside Graceland at the time that the family was there paying their respects.
Oh God!
And it was the National Enquirer had purchased 3 16 millimeter small cameras, Minox type cameras, and had given them to the Mann boys, Ricky Mann, and I can't remember the other 2 names now, but they were distant cousins of Elvis. And, we didn't take security inside because you don't expect family members to do that kind of stuff.
My God.
I will say that I'm very amazed that there was only one picture taken.
Yeah, they say that there was more, and there was a couple more at the Enquirer, but it was either stolen or I guess there was a fire maybe. But no, we've only ever seen one.
Yeah, I mean, as many people passed by, and from what I understand is, there was no stopping. You just walked by. So they would have had to have a camera similar to what was his name? Billy Mann? Ricky Mann? Something like that took the picture.
Really?
Anyway, I just blown away because there was a lot of people who walked by there, and somebody could have, today that anybody could have easily gotten a picture with phones the way they are today.
I would.
Yeah.
We're worried about the fans, and she's. I read in your book too that there was someone had mentioned the possibility of a cremation. Did that actually come up? I mean, I don't want you to say who, but someone actually said maybe that's what we should do.
Yeah.
Well, that was discussed, and it was put to rest very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Vernon didn't want that, and it was never brought up again.
Yeah. Yeah. When the body was then brought, after the family had said their goodbyes and that, and then they were taking the body over to Forest Hill. When it was put into the mausoleum, was Was there security for the mausoleum? Who took care of that? And was there a fear of someone trying to steal the body?
No, not originally. We had security on the mausoleum, and there was security. The cemetery provided some sort of roving security. There wasn't anything 24 hours a day, on the door, because it was locked. The casket was sealed in the mausoleum in its crypt and everything, and so it was just more or less people from the cemetery trying to keep the people from trampling other graves and so forth and so on. And there was a constant badger between Graceland and the cemetery, because they were complaining about all the people coming there and trampling everything, and the flowers, dead flowers, and trash that was left. But it had to stay there, because the intent had always been to bring Elvis to back to Graceland. But
it was.
There were certain legal requirements that had to be done in order to do that. That portion of Graceland.
Is that true? I've never heard that before.
That's why I said it was. Yeah. That it was. Yeah.
I didn't know that they had discussed it right at the beginning.
Yeah. That's why the same thing.
Yeah.
Had to be rezoned as a cemetery before we could move Elvis and his mother up there, and that takes a little bit of time, several weeks to accomplish.
So there had to be permits and all that stuff, and
Right.
which I didn't realize. I didn't realize that it was always planned to bring Elvis home to the meditation garden.
Oh yeah, that was always the intent. It just couldn't be done right after the funeral, because we needed to have that rezoned. You can't just go bury people anywhere you want. It has to be zoned as a cemetery, and all has to be legal so that there aren't any problems with it.
Was there any problems getting the permits?
No, it just takes time, because there's certain requirements that it has to be looked at by this commission and this staff bureau and so forth, and then it has to be put before the commissioners and city people, and so all those it just takes time. That's all.
Yeah. Now, did you set up the security to bring him back home to Graceland?
Yes, it did.
Can you tell me a little bit about what you had to set up? And
well, there were several requirements. First off, we had to get meditation gardens ready, and the graves had to be dug, and the vaults put in there, and that set up. And we wanted to do it where we wouldn't have a lot of crowd around, so I worked closely with Tom Morgan from the Sheriff's Department, and between Tom and Morgan, myself, and Sam Thompson, we set this up along with the Memphis Funeral Home, and then we had to get the cemetery to open Gladys's grave, and we opened that up the day before and moved her coffin into the mausoleum and locked it in there so that we could take both of them in, and we waited until it got dark, because we had that one attempt to steal Elvis's body out of there, which we were able to foil, but
do you think that was an actual attempt? I mean, could they even have gotten in there with just the shovels and stuff that they had?
Oh yeah. They could have. They could have broken into the mausoleum, and they probably could have chipped their way into the crypt itself and removed the casket.
Right. There is no
way.
No fucking way in hell.
Now the bullshit meter's just gone off the scale.
Size of that
Yeah.
casket and the size of the door for the no.
No
even,
ways.
even a standard wooden coffin
No.
would be impossible for two guys to carry,
Yeah.
or even three. There's just no freaking way.
It's here. So you got to move it out. It's here. Then you got to put it on the floor or try to back out of that. You can't do it. No way it's going to happen unless you take the body out.
Yeah, it was
And then
900 pounds with the body.
Yeah.
And then the entrance to the cemetery is away from the mausoleum to begin with. So unless they had a vehicle literally parked outside of the door there, there's no way in hell they would have got him out of that place without without anybody knowing anything.
Didn't their vehicle break down too?
Yeah.
Or something? I don't know. It may just be something just I dreamed, but it's just Dick Grove just showed his stupidity now. Not just that he's that he's BSing, but anyway, he was there. He saw the coffin. He has to know that it would be too heavy. But anyway, it's a Dick Grove one on this one.
Now, you wanted to bring him back on the 3rd, but I guess what I read in your book, you wanted to bring him back on the 3rd, but somehow the news or something got a hold of it, and so you wanted to then bring him on the 2nd, but yet then you had problems with the funeral parlor.
Joe Paul.
Well, the problems weren't necessarily with the funeral problem. The problems were with the cemetery. They weren't going to take and they weren't very accommodating. They turned around and tried to cost charge more money. The people weren't going to work, et cetera, et cetera. They didn't, because we had to dig up one grave and then get ready to open the other grave up, and they weren't going to pay overtime and so forth. The Memphis Funeral Home was very accommodating. They were ready to do it whenever we wanted. We did change the date because we got word that it might be out that we were going to move him on the 3rd, and we moved it ahead a day just at the very last minute, which caused the cemetery to go bananas on us.
Yeah. But one quick question. I always thought that Gladys was buried in the ground.
Yes, she was.
Okay, so she was dug up and then moved to the mausoleum.
We opened the grave up, moved the casket up, and then moved it into the mausoleum for safekeeping.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, and I'm not sure, it's like I said, it's been 30-some years, but I think the guys that
So how can you forget that she was buried in the ground?
No.
That's why he even said, I always thought she was buried in the ground. And then he makes it, well, it was such a long time ago.
Yeah.
Does something like that.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous around that whole event. It's not like he went grocery shopping that day and he's supposed to remember 30 years later what he bought. This is a significant event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then if you look at the size of the crypt to begin with, there would have literally been, we've heard everybody else speak about it too, and Billy said that place was literally big enough. They literally had a hard time moving around the casket because the space in there was so minimal. Now there's all of a sudden space for 2 900-pound caskets in there.
Yeah. I saw you laughing and putting your head like this when they were talking about wanting more money and stuff. The Forest Hill.
Yeah.
No. Why would they? 1 second he's saying that Forest Hill wouldn't accommodate them, which I believe is a load of bullshit to begin with. Forest Hill would have certainly realized the magnitude of who Elvis was and the logistics of having him moved. They would have been more than accommodating, and then exactly 90 seconds later he turns around and says no, that they were very accommodating.
Problem is, Sam Thompson said the same exact thing. Same thing.
Did
Like,
Wow.
Said the same thing.
yeah.
crazy.
I agree with you. Why would they not want to have Elvis there? But I can also see them saying, it's destroying everything else. I can
Yeah,
see that. I go both ways.
it would have
Yeah.
been. Yeah, it would have been like you said, Joe. It would have been nice to have had yeah, the prestige of having Elvis there, but they were smart enough to realize this could be more detrimental to our
Yeah.
physical property. We know what
Yeah.
they do to the walls at Graceland. You imagine what they would have been doing on the mausoleum? I mean,
They still write on it.
yeah. Oh, they do still
Yeah.
today. Wow. It's amazing, So I Forest Hill saw the benefit of not having him there, but also they do have the prestige of having originally had him there, and just the pictures just alone, right there of all those flowers that were that day. The still to this day holds the record.
Wow.
Did the digging in the ground, the guy that was, he wasn't going to be there that day, and we actually wanted to make the move, so she was opened up the day before and stored and placed in for safekeeping in the mausoleum itself.
Okay. Were you there when they opened the mausoleum, Elvis's mausoleum?
Yes.
That had
Yes.
to be extremely. It must have been very hard on you.
Well, no, it really wasn't, because you don't have time to think. You're worried about, is everything going to go right? You're worried about, are we going to have problems with this? Like I said, we had enough problems with the cemetery. We just wanted that to get over and done with. There were several sheriff's deputies there. Sam Thompson was there with me. Tom Morgan. If I remember the guy's name, Kendricks, I think, was the guy from the funeral home, if I remember correctly. And
Kendall.
he was there, and as well as people from the cemetery that were going to open
That's
the mausoleum up in the crypt, So everybody, it was kind of satisfying that we were going to take him back home where we could supply much better security for him and so forth, and he was going home. So it was.
Okay, so Laurie's asking, wasn't Gladys in the lower crypt and they put Elvis in the middle crypt?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Gladys was in the mausoleum from the time of her funeral?
No, she wasn't.
No,
She wasn't originally. She wasn't originally entombed in the crypt. No.
Yes.
Well-
The first, because I have pictures of that.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. And then I've heard that Kim, I've heard that too. Also, people leaving items, flowers, etc. was too much. Yeah, they were complaining about it. Correct, Kim. I believe about Force. So, yeah, I just remember reading about it in a few books where Forest Lawn just they were obviously very happy to not have him there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a good kind of happy. It's just you know what I mean.
It was kind of peaceful. It wasn't traumatic or anything like that. It was just.
Yeah, what's that a picture of? That is that where Gladys was?
No, that's the meditation garden.
Yeah, that's right after.
Oh, I see it in the back there. Okay, yeah. Oh, so that's right when they moved them. Wow.
The libraries say that that's all fake, that they just stirred up the grass and that. But because a lot of them say they didn't see a backhoe go up through the driveway to dig these out. But at that time, if you look, you can see how between the fountain and the pillars, I think it would be awfully hard to get a backhoe in there at the diagonal of where the way they have to put the bodies in.
Right.
They still have some people who dig by shovel.
Yeah.
They still have grave diggers, but you can't get that.
Yeah, and I would say that's more what they had to do because those backhoes would have tore up all the walkways, everything around.
Exactly.
Those things are not forgiving to
No.
to stuff like that. Um, but I'm pretty sure. I don't know if almost like in my mind I remember somebody saying it was done by a backhoe, or then I've heard that it was hand dug. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
They,
But it's
they,
one of those things like
they wouldn't have had space to get mechanical equipment in there because if you look at the picture to the left, just across from where the eternal flame was mounted, just across the fence is the swimming pool,
yeah,
and then just to the right is the steps.
yeah. I think
So
Joe's
how
probably
would they?
right. It was hand
Yeah,
dug.
they would have had to have dug those graves by hand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gladys's
and
statue already there being put there. See it? Isn't it?
oh yeah. What's that again?
Gladys's statue is already being placed there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I see
How
it.
do you get around the statue? How
Mm-hmm.
the backhoe do
Yeah.
it?
Well, even with digging by hand, it doesn't necessarily mean they used hand tools.
No.
There were gas operated tools that would break up the dirt. As you go down, like post hole diggers. They had the augers, and they could sit. So they had the equipment to do it, and they had the people who did it for a living. I
Yeah.
mean, hence the term. Yeah, I was a grave digger when I grew up. Or when I got. Anyways, that kind of sounded stupid, didn't it?
Moving and finishing what we had originally planned and started, and it would be better protection for him, and we wouldn't have to deal with the cemetery anymore. There are constant complaints and everything.
How was the condition of Gladys's casket after all these years? I mean, she was buried in.
Casket was in very good shape.
Wow.
Very, very good shape. It was almost as good as Elvis's.
Wow.
The thing about copper,
So, okay, then you
copper doesn't rust.
Yeah, it don't break down.
Yeah, it doesn't break down, so it's gonna. And in when we think about it today, we think of her having been buried for decades. Well, she wasn't. In '58 she died, and he died. So you're talking 19 years, and that's really not a whole lot of time to pass by for a copper coffin, which isn't going to degrade or break down, like you said, Joe, or rust. That's why they wanted those.
Plus, it's in a vault.
Yeah. Oh, yep.
Yeah. Plus it's
Yeah.
in a vault.
Yeah, so it's protected.
Yeah.
And then back to Graceland, something happened at the front gate, right? Not the gate to the cemetery. You couldn't get out?
Well, they'd closed the gate because it was after time, and we had to raise Cain about that. Although they knew we were in there, they knew we were moving him. They closed and locked the gate.
And left.
We had to take care of that.
So here you are. You're at the gate with the two hearses, and you're trying to be incognito.
Yep.
Jeez, do you kind of think maybe it was done on purpose?
Well, it wouldn't surprise me.
Jeez.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So they got the gate open, and then you brought Elvis back home. Who was there when you got back to Graceland? Who was there?
Well, there were Vernon was there.
No other
Gamble.
No other family members. Oh.
Patsy Gamble was there. Sandy, the nurse that was staying and living with Vernon at the time, was there. I think, if I remember right, Uncle Vester was there.
Mm-hmm.
There was Dr. Nick was there. Dean Nicopolis was there.
I guess Nancy Rooks was there.
Yeah. The staff was there. They were there.
Did you have a service?
Some brief words were said. Yeah. I don't remember who said them now, but some brief words were said, and Vernon sat through the because he wasn't in good health. We were quite concerned about him. We kept oxygen tanks around for him because he had bad heart problems.
Could anybody steal the body now? Could you tell me, like, the security of the casket and that, if you can remember it? I mean, I read it in your book, and I was amazed how much you went through to make sure that never happened.
Well, not only, if I remember correctly, and I'm not sure that I do, but I think the casket itself weighed about 800 pounds. Of course, the vault, there's a concrete vault in the ground that the casket sits in. The casket itself is epoxy sealed, so it would be extremely difficult to open it up. The vault and lid was placed on it, and that weighed several hundred pounds of concrete. That was sealed to the vault itself. Then there's dirt on top of that. Then there's about an 800-pound granite slab and a 400-pound bronze marker on top of it. I may be off on the poundage, but there's a couple of thousand. There's a ton of stuff you'd have to move to be able to get into it, to even try to get the casket out. And all of that would require more than just a shovel. You'd have to have a crane, a hoist of some kind, and then a backhoe. And then,
There we go.
To get down in there. Plus, there's
And there comes Cam from in the depths.
some other
There we go.
devices that are placed in there that
Yeah.
if anybody went to go digging.
Okay, Dick, please explain this to me. How the hell are you gonna get electrical or mechanical machinery in there without destroying the property to dig a hole that's almost 1.5 miles deep? Because the way
1.5 miles?
No.
Yeah, because the way he's described it, there was so many hundreds of pounds of cement in there, and then there was ground on top of it, and then there was a slab put on top of that, and then there was this hole should have easily been 1.5 to 2 miles deep.
No.
No.
You not miles. You're probably talking about meters, but not miles.
Yeah.
Well,
A mile is like a kilometer.
I know, but the way how thick would the concrete slab have to be on top?
Oh, I would say maybe 3 feet at
and
the
then
most.
and then with ground and then
But
with
a
ground.
mile is 5,280 feet.
But he just said that he traveled.
That's like digging a hole from you've got miles that shouldn't even correlate in this. That's a long distance.
Yeah.
It would take you just to walk. The fastest man on earth, it takes him 4 minutes to run a mile. So you're probably talking meters.
I bet it's about 6 feet, like everybody else's is.
Yeah. 6 foot is usually the standard. And so you've got that. You got the vault in there. And then the top of the vault, I would say, is probably maybe 6 inches.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I bet, cement under that and then the granite over top.
Right?
You could take that granite right off and see a big cement slab there.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, but yeah, you got a good point though, Cam. It's a deep fucking hole. And,
Yeah.
But they're not going to. There's no way they were going to do that with a backhoe. It's just not going to happen right there because it's not an open area to do that in. And it's just like even before they. It was obviously a while before they even opened it up for tourism. So that place was. It was a meditation garden for Elvis. It wasn't a big old open field on the back where the horses run,
I'd also sorry.
No, go ahead, Joe.
I'd also like to say is people don't know when they started to work on these holes either.
That's true. That's
Because-
true. Very good point.
Yeah. That's where a lot of people there was no backhoe. We didn't
Yeah, that's a real good point. Yeah.
doesn't mean they did it right before the body got there.
Well, all right, Dick. Let's see what else. I like what yeah.
Be able to tell that, you know.
Really?
So,
Oh, huh.
I like the questions you ask this guy too, because it sometimes it's like you could tell he has to stop and think. It's like I would remember who made who it was that said the words there, was the
Yeah.
preacher or what. I would remember who did that, because you're not talking about a whole congregation of people. You're just talking about maybe 15, 12, 15 people, and it's not going to be Verdon. You're going to whittle it down to just the preach. Maybe the preacher was the one. I mean, just
Maybe he
anyway.
did grave digging.
What's that?
Yeah, maybe he did the grave digging. But you would have to think grave diggers were there, but they probably backed up. But I would move ahead a little bit just to hear what was going on. But isn't
Yeah.
it weird? You don't hear a lot about this. When he told me this, I thought this has got to be one of the first times you really heard that who was there and what was said. And
Yeah.
I thought this was a pretty cool, almost an exclusive for me, because I was blown away by it. I really was. And when you talked to Nancy Brooks about it too, because I think I asked her something about what did you think when you stood there, and you know what I mean? And she's really cool. I think you already listened to that one, Jeff.
Yeah. Yeah, with Nancy Brooks. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a good one. That's the first one. Well, actually, the first one we heard from you was Lacey.
Oh yeah, and you didn't get permission for that. I'm going to sue your ass.
I know. Somebody sent it to me, and I thought this is good. And then I tried to get him where he got it from, and he never told me. So I beg your forgiveness.
That's all right. We'll let it go this time.
Well, who knows? Maybe if we listen a little bit longer, Dick's gonna come out and say Elvis and his mama were dropped in there by helicopter.
I thought there was more in here about the heist, unless you missed some of it when we had that little bit of problem there. Or, like I said, I've got other stuff that.
Yeah, well, it's still an interesting. It's still tied around with where we are at in the books too. So the basic part of this interview covers what we've been talking about with these books, and now we're getting into that heist, and the whole heist thing is it's a what is it? It's a comedy routine. It's the Three Stooges. It's the
It's a
Keystone
well
Cop.
fabricated story.
Was it the song man I know? Maybe the song man I know.
All right, here we go.
that part of it I won't discuss.
Okay, no, it's good to know that there's some extra security there just in case.
And there is a television camera that watches the grave all the time.
Uh-huh. Now, I read in the book, too, that there's some kind of strength text that when you seal the top to the bottom of the casket, it actually almost becomes one.
Yep. Yeah, that's the epoxy or whatever it is. I call it epoxy, but it's a super duper sealant that you really would probably need a blowtorch to cut open the casket.
Mm-hmm.
And that must be a detective word.
I just wanted to ask you quick, too. Some people have tried to say that Vernon had set up to try to steal the body, but we know that's not true. If you were going to move Elvis to Graceland from the beginning.
Well, and that's correct. Vernon did not do that. He wouldn't do that. It was always the plan to take Elvis from the cemetery back to Graceland. The placing in the cemetery was just an interim place for him to be at rest until such time as we got this other stuff taken care of. And
Question.
Yeah.
If
You
they
know
were
you
plan-
got a pause button.
Yeah, I know, but
Oh, okay.
surely, if they'd known that they were going to move Elvis from the beginning, right? Why go to the trouble of having him placed in the crypt if they could have just paid a little bit extra for him to be stored at the hospital?
Well, one of the
for that-
things that was mentioned, I don't know if it was while we were talking, Joe, or during this, but they needed to wait for zoning to be able to happen.
Yeah,
It'll be a while.
but did they not know it would have happened so quick?
Yeah, they didn't know. He even said himself,
Okay.
it took a while and stuff like that. But I'm sure they didn't want to keep the body at the hospital either because what was happening at Forest Hill, I'm sure was happening at the hospital.
Yeah.
You know?
And then as we've been reading in the book where people were saying, now this is where you need to send him, but this is where you need to send him. You don't need to bury him or all kinds of different things. Shoot him off into space in a capsule or whatever. Stupid stuff. Everybody had these wild, and those aren't Dib Grobe stories. Those are stories coming from the Holton book. People. So anyway, it had to be turmoil, and the fact that Elvis died so suddenly, they never had the forethought for the zoning. The only thing they could have done was done it in order to bring Gladys there, but there was no reason because Elvis was living there,
Yeah.
and he always went down to Forest Lawn, on the anniversaries and all that. He used to go down there all the time.
That's
And
why, sorry. That's why a lot of people say, I wonder if Elvis knew that he would ever be buried in Meditation Garden. I don't think he did because he wanted to be buried next to his mom.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think he did either. I quite honestly I wasn't taken aback. I was surprised that it did happen. I thought there would have been maybe a battle or a fight for it. But then I also got to remember, Memphis loved Elvis.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that the zoning probably got through quicker than your standard,
Yes.
procedures. And they do have emergency meetings, not just because it was Elvis. There's other situations where, something needs to be suggested or taken care of right away. And I'm sure the city council and all that, or the building department, knew what was happening at Forest Lawn and said, we got to get this done, Because when was it they moved them?
October 5th.
October 5th, correct?
Or
Yeah.
9th. Sorry. On the 9th.
So it was it was 2 months after he passed, August, September, October. Almost 2 months. Wow.
Almost 2 months.
They were going to move him on the 3rd, so they did it the day before and the 2nd. Sound
On the 3rd, yeah, that's what I mean.
yeah, he had the dates wrong, I think. Oh, well, everybody's listening. I mean, did he? I swear to God, he said they were going to do it on the 3rd, but it had gotten out there that maybe we were going to do it, so we could.
Yeah, yeah. I know that they postponed it because the word got out,
Mm-hmm.
or they changed it. Did they decide to do it earlier to catch the people off guard? Because if they saw that if people went out there and saw it hadn't happened yet, they probably would have hung around. But if they went out there and saw it was done already, then they would have, oh shit, I missed it. They told us. I know because October 3rd was also the anniversary. Oh, you know what? October 3rd was also the date that the Elvis in concert was on TV. I'm pretty sure that the special, the Elvis in concert, premiered on October 3rd. I don't know. Somebody let me know out there. Somebody's going to tell me in a second.
Got the legal changes made to Graceland. And Vernon did not know these other guys. Through intelligence, was given the information that there were some people trying it, and these guys met in a bar and so forth and so on. And Memphis PD worked very closely with me on that, and we had that staked out. We knew that they were going to go, and unfortunately, I think Memphis jumped the gun a little quickly on it because they had broken into the mausoleum yet, but they were at the door with their tools and so forth and so on.
Wow, I didn't realize they were even that close. I thought that they were trying to jump the wall to get into the cemetery, but they were right up to the mausoleum.
Oh yeah. They were right at the door to the mausoleum, yes.
Do you know what happened to them? What did they get out of any of that? Did they get
show up at a
fined? Did they
marble
just get a
mausoleum with a
fine?
shovel.
You know, I don't remember. I think they did some jail time on it. There were 4 of them, and I think they were fined, but I don't recall that at this point in time anymore.
And then to one of them to turn around down the road and say that this was all set up by Vernon. Jeez.
Well, yeah, you know, now, and you got to remember, you know, Vernon didn't go many places, and these people certainly did not come to Graceland at any time, and Vernon didn't go out. He was in very poor health. There was always somebody with him of some sort. Either Sandy was with him, you know, his girlfriend at the time, and nurse, or one of the security people, or, you know, would drive him or something like that. So, no, that didn't.
Yeah, Joe.
Isn't it funny how he said, and his girlfriend at the time, because he hated Ginger. He wouldn't even say her name. He hated her. I mean, look at the book that he wrote. I mean, he trashed Ginger.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Even Patrick Lacey said that he never knew what he had against Ginger. You know,
Yeah, I remember that in that interview.
Everything, yeah.
I've had my suspicions, and I mentioned this prior. I kind of thought that, you know, maybe there's a possibility that Dick made a pass to Ginger and she rejected him.
I would have.
Yeah.
Girl, you know what I mean?
I mean, what other reason would a guy
No
have?
harm, no foul.
What other reason would a guy have to be so distasteful or to express so much dislike towards a woman other than maybe he made a pass and she said, hell no.
He rejected him.
Yeah, but she's never said that.
No, she may never.
She would have said it. So
Yeah.
I'd sleep with her. I'd sleep with her again.
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 Beautiful woman. Beautiful woman.
Oh, yeah. Just a thought.
Yeah.
It's no fault.
That's probably the most ludicrous story that I've heard. You know, somebody's just trying to make some extra money by telling some more lies about it.
Yeah. The other thing I had read in your book, too, was they originally did not want any of yous there when they took Elvis out of the mausoleum.
Who?
The cemetery people, when they took Elvis out of the mausoleum.
Yeah. They didn't want. They just wanted to take it out and have the funeral home just pick up the caskets, you know, and that just wasn't going to happen. All in all, in the whole thing that went on over those days and months and that, the cemetery was just the worst of anybody that you could ask for to try to, you know, everybody else was most helpful. The sheriff's department, the police department, the funeral home, the hospital, everybody, you know. But the cemetery people were just almost impossible to work with. You know, when we went out that front gate with the hearses, everybody breathed a sigh of relief just because they were just so obnoxious about everything.
So how did you get him to finally let you to have somebody there? I mean, I know in your book it says that you changed your mind. How did you change your mind?
Well, let's put it this way. We made them an offer they couldn't refuse.
Yeah, now you said if there was any photos taken that there would be repercussions, and
that's correct. You know, that was one of the reasons that we wanted our people there, was because we're always afraid that somebody would take pictures of the casket or with the casket being out in the open, that it could be taken off someplace else, you know, and just disappear. that wasn't gonna happen.
Mhm.
And that we would hold them responsible, and with a little help from the sheriff's department, they saw the light. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Now, Dick, there was no other second viewing or anything like that. All they saw was the casket, right? Because it was already sealed.
Yep. Yeah.
There was no other viewings, nothing.
It was not opened at all. No.
Yeah. You couldn't get it open if you wanted to. It sounds like.
No. You could, but it would take you a long time to do that.
Yeah. Now, was there any other security that was done at Graceland besides the camera? I mean, I know there's something in the ground that you can't say, but was there anything else? You just stepped up security guards and stuff like that, or?
Yeah, we just.
There was something else in the ground that you couldn't say.
Yeah,
I missed something.
no, he talked to me off. He might.
Oh,
say something, but
okay. Okay.
he wouldn't talk to me. I bruised my brain trying to figure out what the hell that could be. What the hell could it be?
I don't understand what they were. Don't tell me they put a camera down there, because I don't think they had that type of camera.
Yeah, there's stuff now they can put there you wouldn't know. Like
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Today you could do it, but
yeah, I don't know.
Maybe it's just one of those. What do they call them? Little Easter eggs they put in things. They're kind of a teaser, and it doesn't really exist, or
Maybe
I
it
don't
changed around the whole thing, or maybe
yeah.
who knows?
Yeah. Funny.
Stepped up the number of people that we had on duty at the time and so forth, and then we made preparations to open it up, because one of the rules that you have to go by, it's a state law that cemeteries have to be open a certain number of hours, and you can't charge to go into the cemetery and so forth. So when we opened it up for fans to come in and walk through meditation gardens, we of course had to have more people on duty, just so that we didn't get anybody defacing the markers or the granite or anything like that.
So you.
Kim, there's code would not allow them to have electrical wires that close to the coffin. They wouldn't be allowed to put anything near any electrical wires. That would be. It could be disastrous.
Especially that fountain right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Already thinking back then that Graceland would be open to the fans.
Unless they put a stereo in
Well,
it.
yeah, Vernon was concerned about the finances, because it's a lot of money to keep Graceland going, and I had worked out plans to open, because you couldn't charge to the cemetery, but
Right.
I had worked out plans that we could open the racquetball court up and charge people like $1 to go into the racquetball court, and another set of plans that would allow people to go through portions of Graceland, which they're kind of using those. It's the same basic plan that they are using today, whether they adopted my plan or redid their own, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I had drawn those up, giving Vernon the choice
Thank you, Big Grove,
option.
for opening Graceland.
I forgot to tell you. What was that?
Thank you, Dick Grove, for opening Graceland.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Vic. Yeah, Joe. I got to remember what I was going to say, but my camera distracted me.
I have the press book for that when they first opened Graceland. And I think it was almost like a board that did that, decided to open it and blah, 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 blah. I don't think it was Dick. I think Dick was talking, you know.
That's funny.
He might have had something to do with it, because he was the head of security.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I would say that his portion would be the security details and what we're going to need. He wasn't like Joe, who was the jack of all trades, or the jerk of all trades, or however you want to put it. You know. But boy, Dick can tell a story, can't he?
His storytelling does his first name justice, that's for sure.
You know what? You know what hurts is I'm sure some of this information is real, but you
Yeah.
question all of it. You know, that's what hurts.
Yeah. Okay, I gotta see.
This is
Okay.
insane.
When I got cameras all around my house, and every once in a while I'll catch, and I'm the only one home. Well, my son's home, but he's still on Hawaii time. So I just saw these two things go right by the camera. Couldn't catch them, but they were my puppies. Yeah, they. I forgot what I was going to say about Dick, or about this whole opening. I just can't imagine say, "Hey, you want to for a buck? I'll let you go look inside the wrecking ball for it." I just.
No.
But you know what? People would do it.
Yeah.
Anything with Elvis, they would have done it.
Doing
Okay,
that,
we
and
got a
he
minute left.
ultimately decided he didn't want to do that.
Now, before somebody asks me, I thought I'd ask: did Elvis ever have any idea or say that he would want to be buried in the meditation gardens?
Not to me, and not to my knowledge. No, I never heard that. You know, so maybe he discussed that with his father. I don't know, but not to my knowledge.
Did you work for Graceland for quite a while after that?
Yeah, for another year and maybe a year and a half after that, something like that. I stayed on after Elvis died for approximately 2 years, give or take a little bit, and then I left and went back to California.
Yeah. So, well, Dick, I thank you very much for doing this for me.
Okay, you got it, sport.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Send me a copy when you get it.
I will. All right.
Okay, Joe.
Bye-bye.
All right, talk to you. Bye.
That's a good interview, Joe.
You know, he was a real nice guy, but it's a shame to know that he's going to go down in history as a liar.
Yeah.
You know,
And there's no cause for it. Some of the stuff that he says is like, it comes under our category of who cares. What was that?
next there, huh?
That was the Double Dynamite album, right?
Yeah, but it's sealed.
Oh, is it? Cool.
Yeah, I got it for like $2.
Oh, wow.
The only reason I got it was because it was sealed. Because Pickwicks are not worth a dime. Pickwicks are.
Yeah,
Like-
I got a few Pickwicks. I've been going through my collection. There's some that are damaged and some that, aren't, and I want to just clean them all up. I got some of the originals from the 50s, but they've gotten pretty beat up over 60-something years, and going through 3 kids. But yeah, that was a good one. Now, I'm going to start on the chapter Decoded and discussing exactly what we just talked about. So it'll be a great discussion, and you're going to be able to hang around for it, right, Joe?
Sure, I got nothing to do.
Nothing to do. All
Yeah,
right,
that's the sad part to what Joe said earlier. There is probably some of what Dick spoke about that was true, but he spoke so much bullshit over the years about so many other things that I personally don't believe anything that came out of his mouth now.
You got a question. So C-Cat wants to know, did you send him a copy
Copy of what?
of the interview? No, Dick asked that they send him a copy.
No, I never sent a copy.
No, there you go, C-Cat. He didn't send it to him. Let's see. Charlie, Joe, great interview, sir. Thank you for sharing it with us. The other thing is, before we started is this, if you want to I don't think we touched base on it, but the other part of your channel, and I guess a part of what you do, is collecting. And what is it you got a specific item that you collect, or you just anything Elvis? I know a lot of people collect the old albums, they just stick it to albums or things like that, but I can't hear.
Unmute. Works
Okay,
better.
yeah, I just saw that. Okay.
Yeah. I love the old stuff, vinyl or memorabilia. Anything 50s, 60s, 70s before his death. And even after his death, certain things. But I am not a ashtray person or plate person. I
Yeah.
don't any of that stuff. Nothing wrong with it. That's what you like to collect. And if that's what you want to put in your walls, that's wonderful. I'm glad you enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, to each his own. You know, I don't if they're a fan of Elvis, whatever they like, and I don't collect as much as I used to. If I get a deal on an old original vinyl or something like that, I've gotten to the point where I really don't collect anymore. I just keep what I have, and um, and now it's just the new stuff that comes out, the FTDs and things like that. They come in certain amount of releases, and so I get what I can afford since they pretty much outpriced it for a majority of the Elvis fans, like they have everything else.
Mm-hmm.
How many times you been to Graceland?
Not many, 3. That's
Really?
all. Mm-hmm. One
Yeah.
by Donna, another one I was brought in for free by somebody else, and then one I paid for. And the one I paid for was very expensive.
Yeah, they're pretty expensive now. Yeah, we're working on our trip for the 50th. I didn't have a problem with Dick till the lies about the military service.
There you go.
Then my whole opinion of him changed. When people do that, when they lie about stolen, when there's stolen valor, or I just have no respect for anybody that does. Even it doesn't even have to be military, but, police or some kind of form of authority like that. It's just taken it because those people die for us. Don't pretend like you were part of that.
Well, that was one of the reasons that Elvis really liked him and brought him on.
Yeah.
Military history plus being a cop.
Oh yeah, Elvis was all into the cops, man. And some of his best friends he had outside of that, well, I would probably say even better than what he had inside that group. Were policemen. Well, you got Sam Thompson. You got the one from Colorado. He wrote. I think he's the one that wrote the book about Elvis and his friendship. He knew him everywhere. He got to know him, and that's cool. And they have a lot of respect for him.
In case there's some reason I do have to leave, I just wanted to bring up one of the guys, one of the 3 guys that tried to steal the body. His name was Ron Atkins, and I wanted to interview him, and I was put in touch with him by the same person that put me in touch with Pete Presley. Isn't that weird? And I called him to interview him, and he says, "No, I'll call you back when I can." A couple days later, he calls me back. I finally figured out, and he called me real late at night because I didn't have a chance to say anything up to date, right? So he calls me, talks to me, and tells me all this crap about they had this soldering torch type thing and all this crap, and Vernon, and they wanted $2 million. And you look at other places, they say $10 million and all that crap.
Yeah.
But at the end, he said to me, if I hear any of this anywhere, he said, I'm going to track you down and put a wire around you and kill you. And you know what? Yeah, it scared the piss out of him.
Yeah.
He seemed serious. He really seemed serious.
Yeah, I don't want to be strung up with a wire, that's for sure.
I'm sure he was only kidding, Mr. Atkins.
Yeah.
Really.
That's interesting. Yeah. I'm sure some of them are a lot of them are some strange characters. But I want to get to some of those other interviews. I don't know. It'd be interesting how the D. Stanley interview would go over on this channel.
I don't think. I don't know. What do the people who are listening think? Will it bother you? I mean,
no. I mean, as far as this, I would have to do a separate thing with it. Or what I do is I let everybody know that we're going to do a chat, and it's going to be about this topic specifically, so that they know, and they don't have to come to it. I don't want them to come here and then the discussion goes, "Oh, I don't like this stuff" and all that. I try to keep them separate, and it seems to work out pretty good. Let's get this here. Okay, I gotta squeeze. I'm gonna have to squeeze that down a little bit, and we're gonna get. Let's see. Window. All right, now shrink that baby down. There we go. Chapter 14. Now, these are all the. I've taken them. This isn't the actual book. It's just a paraphrase and rewriting of the chapter. And I never heard back from Patrick. I sent him a request for permission to be able to actually use his book on the channel. So I stopped using it because I never heard back from him. And I just
You
do
might still.
a discussion. What's that?
There's always a possibility you might still. He might
Yeah.
just be busy.
Yeah. I'm excited about doing the one going to be in June when I got that other interview. I'm excited about that one. But this one, I'm enjoying some of the information that a lot of what Joe's input has been on this. So we're carrying on with this discussion, and we're at chapter 14 in Decoded of, I think, 23, 24 chapters. And what are we, week 8?
Yeah, I think so.
He starts off with, was there truly an attempt to steal Elvis's body? And you know how he writes, obviously, Joe. Reports indicate that on August 29th, 1977, less than 2 weeks after Elvis's death, there was an alleged plot involving several men who were accused of attempting to remove his body from its crypt. However, the exact extent and even the legitimacy of the plot remains uncertain. To understand what happened, we turn to an August 30th article in the Commercial Appeal. According to the report, 3 Memphis men were charged with criminal trespassing after being apprehended near Forest Hill Cemetery. Police Director E. Winslow Chapman stated that the men had conspired to break open Elvis's sealed crypt, remove his body, and hold it for ransom. So now, this is saying that they weren't even going to take the coffin. To me, it sounds like they're going to try to open it up and take his body itself. I mean, that's how I read that, but
It'd still be hard to get that coffin out of that.
yeah.
Thing. But there is a machine that they put in there that goes in straight, and then there's 2 pieces of metal that goes right underneath the coffin. It pulls it out, and then they pull it out that way. But would they know where the machine is? Would they know how to use it?
Yeah, they wind up cutting their hands off or something stupid like that using a piece of equipment like that. That's got to be an intricate, obviously a specialized piece of equipment, and there's no telling what person would do if they're not trained on it, what they do to themselves. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
It's a lift. That's all it is a lift.
Okay, boys, get in the. You two. What are you guys barking at?
My dog's barking.
Oh, mine are just wandering out. That's coming from you. Cam's got crickets sometimes I hear, and I swear they're in my room. It's so funny every time I laugh. I go, is that your room or is it mine? It always sounds like it's over here to my left. All right, so then a 4th suspect was later arrested at Baptist Hospital after allegedly which is what we were just talking about, injuring himself while fleeing the scene. Despite being connected to the incident, he was released without charges, and his identity was not publicly disclosed. Oh, geez. What the police claimed happened. Authorities said the suspect entered the cemetery shortly after midnight by climbing a rear fence. And according to Chief Roy Taylor of Special Officers, Inc., the private security firm patrolling the cemetery, 3 of the suspects fled in a vehicle before being stopped by police nearby. So what were they going to do? Get the coffin, chip open the crypt, yank out the body, carry it down the flight of steps, take it over, and lift it up over the fence to the car that's parked and go undetected?
Yeah.
Oh my God. You know, how accurate this is at this point, it's just freaking hilarious just to be reading this. Um, the fourth man repeatedly escaped on foot by scaling a fence along Interstate 240, later seeking treatment for an injured leg at Baptist Hospital. Conflicting reports. So from the outset, the case is riddled with inconsistencies.
You don't say.
What does it go? One account claimed that weapons and explosives were found in the suspect's vehicle.
Yeah, they gonna blow up the mausoleum and walk out with a casket.
They were probably local fireworks from the July 4th. Another stated that only a shotgun was recovered and no explosives were present.
Yeah, I don't think there was any explosives. Could you imagine these guys having explosives? And what do they need a shotgun for? What are they going to do? Shoot Elvis?
Oh my God. Another stated, okay, even more troubling, no burglary tools were ever found.
Yeah, they won't pick the lock with the fingers.
And no, they had a shovel to pick the lock, either in the suspect's possession or in the surrounding area. Police suggested that the suspect must have had tools and may have discarded them while fleeing. However, this claim raises serious questions. You were going to say something, Joe?
No, I was
Oh,
saying.
okay. I thought your hand go up. Not that you have to raise your hand, but a key problem in this narrative. A key problem. Police Director Chapman made a peculiar statement saying the suspects were supposed to have burglary tools.
No shit.
That wording is significant. How would authorities know what the suspects were supposed to have unless they already knew and had prior knowledge of the alleged plan? Furthermore, police searched the area for tools despite having no evidence they existed. No officer reported seeing suspects discard anything during the chase. No tools were ever recovered. This leads to an obvious question. Were police acting on prior intelligence or an informant's tip? I don't know what to say about a trail of tools. If so, it would explain why they expected tools to be present, even though none were found. What we actually know, based on the article, the confirmed facts are, this is all that commercial appeal article, isn't it? The confirmed facts are limited. 4 suspects were involved. 3 were arrested at the scene and charged only with criminal trespassing. 1 suspect was arrested later but not charged. The alleged plan was to steal Elvis's body and hold it for ransom. No burglary tools were found. Entry was made by climbing a fence. Evidence regarding weapons and explosives is contradictory.
I think it's like I'm in school.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I think some of it was just made up by the news people just to make it more.
That's what I'm thinking.
Because some of them having them dressed in black look like SWAT going in there to dig up Elvis was just all crap. There's 4 drunken guys at a bar, drunk off their ass, drinking turkey or something. Hey, let's make some money. Let's go steal Elvis's body.
Yeah.
You know,
dude, man.
They must have been good drunk to think that they could get away with something like that with just a shovel.
Yeah.
So why this matters? If the suspects truly intended to break into a sealed mausoleum crypt, the absence of tools is a critical flaw in the story. Breaking into such a structure would require significant equipment and planning, not a simple trespass.
Yeah.
This raises deeper questions. Was this a serious criminal plot or something exaggerated after the fact? Did authorities overstate the suspect's intent? Or was there an informant-driven narrative that never fully materialized in reality? And they got a picture here. This is a picture. Rear entrance to the mausoleum circled. View facing east from Hernando Street. So that's what circled as the rear entrance. I guess that's where they were trying to go in. Yeah. So now we got the missing mastermind and logistical breakdown. One of the most overlooked and troubling elements of this entire incident is the complete absence of any identified mastermind behind the alleged plot. If the suspects were truly planning to steal Elvis's body and hold it for ransom, then who was going to pay them? Who orchestrated the plan? Strangely, no one has ever publicly identified or even seriously investigated. I think you're right, Joe. I just think that I lean more toward the fact that these three guys were sitting around in a bar somewhere, just got off work or whatever, and they're just chowing down, buffalo wings or whatever, and just sucking down the suds and the shots, and another round for the bar. It was paid. I don't know what day of the week it was. Maybe it was it'd be interesting to know if it was a Friday or Saturday night too, on the big nights that people go out. And then they just said, and that was the big event. That was probably the most talked about news in the city at the time. But dude, man, I got a car payment coming up. Let's go steal Elvis's body, or just joking around. And they're just like, yeah, let's go do it.
You know how drunk we'd have to be to even think of something like that? I mean, really, how drunk we'd have to be?
What would you do with the brain if you had one?
Just like obviously there was no brains that possessed there. I lean that way. There was no mastermind of this thing. Nobody served time. They're just a bunch of drunk vagrants. They just happen to pick, of all people, Elvis to steal.
Charlie, they should have scared. They should have starred. I think it's what they mean on the Muppet Show. So feckin' stupid. I know what you mean by feckin', you bad person, you feckin'.
Hey, Jim, this is far, and now this is near. This is far. The four men arrested never spoke publicly. Authorities never announced the suspect, and no follow-up investigation appears to have been conducted. This raises a critical question. If the ransom plot was real, why was the person funding it never pursued? Because if he existed, the threat would not have ended with the arrest. He could have simply hired another group, better equipped, better prepared to try again.
Well, that's where they came out with the story of Vernon doing it. They needed somebody who covered the whole plot. Who was the mastermind? Vernon, who was near death because his son just died. His heart was so bad. He didn't even leave Graceland. He was so tore up. They were waiting for him to go next. He was so sick over it.
Yeah, there's no way Vernon would have even. Vernon wouldn't even have thought about it. I can't imagine him even thinking about it. To go steal his son's body when all he's got to do is just wait until the codes or zoning codes are done, and he comes over. If he's doing it, who's going to pay him the ransom?
Exactly. What motivation?
He's going to pay himself.
What motivation would he have had? He could have just applied to authorities and have him moved. Period.
Which is basically, what he did.
Yeah.
It's just some of the scenarios, and what gets me is people actually believe this shit.
Yeah.
Elvis is alive, and I saw him down at Burger King up in Kalamazoo, Michigan, or something like this. And he's and in order for him to stay hidden, he's decided he's going to continue with the long sideburns and run around in jumpsuits, and he would totally change his appearance.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a different subject for a different day. The security question, even more puzzling, is what happened next. Elvis's body remained at Forest Hill until October 2nd. Yet after the August 29th incident, there is no clear evidence of increased security. Responsibility for protection appears confused and disputed. Forest Hill Cemetery and the Presley camp seem to have shifted responsibility back and forth. Police Director Chapman stated that ongoing security measures would be implemented. Dick Grove later claimed that Vernon Presley instructed him to provide around-the-clock security. However, Forest Hill reportedly expected Grayson to handle the added security. Grove later wrote that Forest Hill had to hire additional security themselves. So who was protecting the mausoleum? The question that Patrick puts here.
Mm-hmm.
I do the same thing. I'm very well known for muting myself and forgetting.
Well, I'm opening up things I just got in the mail because I got open them up and then hide them before my wife gets home. Yeah, I know who was doing security. 4 guys that was drunk in a bar.
Curly, Lowe, let's see, Larry, Curly, Moe, and Shimp. They were all together. Oh, Jesus. So charges quietly collapsed. Another major red flag. The suspects were only charged with criminal trespassing. No theft or attempted theft charges were pursued. The trespassing charges were later dropped entirely. This is difficult to reconcile with the original claim of a ransom plot involving Elvis's body. If the crime had truly reached that level, one would expect serious felony charges, not minor trespassing, and certainly not a complete dismissal. I mean, they really didn't even have, they never found tools. Well, that was according to the commercial appeal. I don't know what the police said about it. But, you know, you would think that if you just hop the fence and run back to the bar, you'd find a shovel here, you'd find a hammer here, all the way and take you right back to the bar. Crazy.
Well, it makes you wonder how far did they get into the mausoleum, or did they get in at all? Because one of the people that was the manager or something that I kind of interviewed said that if you look at the steel door, you can still see where there's damage when they were trying to get into it. But how are they going to do it with a shovel?
Yeah, I can't imagine the mausoleum not wanting to press charges for breaking and entering if they had a broke in.
Exactly.
So I think they got the criminal trespassing because the only thing they ever did really is just hop the fence, get into Forest Hill, got to the mausoleum, and that was as far as they got. Maybe they tried to break in. There's no evidence of that, is there? It's just.
Did they keep it locked then? You think they would, because Elvis was in there? But did they?
Yeah, I would have if I owned the mausoleum and they had literally broken into it, then I would have pushed the police to press charges for breaking and entering, because now you're into felony charges where criminal trespassing is a misdemeanor. What they do? They dropped everything anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So the guys get to have a story to tell their grandchildren. You know, we had our 15 minutes of fame.
We got drunk one day and tried to grab Elvis's body and got away with it.
Yeah. Dude, did you hear what Grandpa did? He's cool.
Stupid.
I got a cool, yeah. Okay, now, tools versus no tools. Two versions of the event emerged. So account 1, the police narrative, no tools were found. No clear evidence of preparation. Charges limited to trespassing. Account 2, tools and bags were allegedly removed from the car. Burglary tools were supposedly recovered. Suspects were observed near the mausoleum before fleeing. They contradict each other, especially on the most critical point: did the suspects have tools? So I don't think they had tools, and that's just
No.
that's just me.
Are they going to get
Because
in there? And even four drunk men have enough sense to know that you're not going to get into a locked mausoleum with their thoughts.
yes, yeah, exactly.
I mean, how drunk do you have to be? I mean, they must have brought something. I mean, you do hear from several people that they had a shovel. They must have had something.
Yeah,
Is this from Patrick's book?
this is all from Patrick's book. Yeah, he's laying out all the different things that he'll bring out his conclusion here in a minute. And we won't get through this whole chapter today because it's a long chapter. So we'll get to a certain point. 'Cause we've already almost been 2 hours.
Sorry.
Did the suspects have the tools needed to carry out the crime? The logistic problem is the fatal flaw. Even if we assume the plot was real, it collapses under basic physical scrutiny. Let's break it down. Elvis's casket reportedly weighed 800 to 900 pounds. With his body, total weight was almost 1,100 pounds. That means 275 pounds per person if 4 men carried it. 4 very drunk people, and 275, nah, not unless you're a body lifter, and that's even that you're talking about dead, no pun intended, you're talking about dead weight, bulky weight. You can't, that's crazy. Now considering the environment, the mausoleum was 250 to 290 feet from the nearest fence. That's a football field length. The suspects allegedly climbed the fence to enter. The car was not positioned directly at the mausoleum, so the plan would require breaking into the sealed crypt, removing an 1,100-pound casket, carrying it nearly 300 feet, lifting it up over a fence, somehow fitting it into the car trunk. This is not just difficult, it borders on the physically implausible. Each trained pallbearers required 8 to 10 men to carry the casket short distances during the funeral. Yet we're asked to believe that 3 or 4 poorly equipped individuals would accomplish this. Now we got to finish this one part. So the competence problem. The story becomes even weaker. How can you get any more freaking weak? Even weaker when considering the alleged financial motive. Claims suggest the men were to be paid up to $40,000. Yet, they had no confirmed tools, no extraction plan, no transportation solution. They behaved recklessly and drew attention to themselves. If someone was truly offering that kind of money, why hire individuals so unprepared and incapable?
Yeah.
So I love Patrick Lacey. I just love the way he puts these out there. This strongly suggests that the ransom narrative may have been fabricated or exaggerated. You think? The suspects may have had no real plan to remove the body. You think? I've seen pictures of these guys, and trust me, you won't be surprised. What this section ultimately exposes. No confirmed mastermind. I like the big red exclamation point. No confirmed mastermind behind the plot. No consistent evidence of tools of preparation. Charges that do not match the severity of the alleged crime. A logistically impossible plan. Conflicting accounts. I get to the point of carrying it over the fence and putting it in the trunk of the car. Half of it hanging out the back with a little red flag on it to keep people from bumping into it like you do on a ladder. The bottom line, when you strip away the headlines and assumptions, what remains is not a sophisticated body snatching operation. It's a story filled with gaps, contradictions and unanswered question, which leads to the most important conclusion. The ransom plot narrative may not hold up under scrutiny.
No, you don't say.
Okay, that's we're to the next heading now, so we'll stop there. We're at 2 hours. Oh my God!
And see, and the weird part is they're still lying now, because when I talked to Ron Atkins, he went through all this crap, the same old bullshit. Even if it's been proven, you're lying through your teeth.
Yeah,
You know, that's my personal opinion, not the opinion of this station. They're still lying about it, and it's not only him. It's a couple of the other ones too. It's still, you know why? It's giving them a fame. They're going to go down in history as I don't want to say it, rednecks who were drunk and had no idea.
yeah, that's
You know, I'm not trying to be
exactly what it was.
people, but that's what they're going to be labeled as for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
It's the whole thought. Just imaging of dude, get the other side, push.
Can you imagine?
Crap.
Can you imagine driving down the street and seeing a car go past with a big coffin sticking out the back? I mean, come on now.
I know.
Cop driving about, not thinking of anything to do. But is that a casket in there that says "Rock and Roll Forever"?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Hey Martha, that's the same kind of coffin Elvis was buried in. They just bought one too. Oh my God.
Maybe we don't know. There's an undocumented part to the story. Maybe there was a fifth guy involved. Maybe he quickly ran down too far to Baptist Hill and stole, or to the funeral home and stole the hearse and came back with the hearse for them to load the coffin in the hearse.
Maybe the fifth one was Arnold Schwarzenegger. He just couldn't make it that day. Oh my God! Sorry for the bad impression. So I saw that. Yeah, I was trying to give this comment. Yeah, we did see an interview with one of the guys. I'll find that interview, so we'll play it next week. There was a little short clip of an interview with one of the guys.
Yeah, you played it a couple of weeks ago.
I've got it in my documentaries. I'll find it. Actually, no, I don't even know what it's called. I'll be searching everything in the book, but I'll find it. It was like only a 5-minute interview with him, or 10-minute interview, and then and so the autopsy video that's like 45 minutes. I think what we'll do is we'll play that at the beginning of next week, and we'll see. Since I took out all the background music, that's what it was getting hit on. Got hit on. But when I uploaded it to YouTube, it came back and says the owner is allowing people to use this. But even when it says that, and it's a situation like with Joe or who else? There's been other people that video that we saw Saturday or Sunday. That was I asked them for permission. They replied. It's like Joe. You guys replied right back. I emailed other people and never got a response, so I just don't play them. And the video, that one with the Nancy Rook one and the Patrick Lacey one, somebody emailed those to me. It didn't tell me anything who they came from. I didn't even. That's the time I wasn't even familiar with their interviews, but I thought the one with Patrick Lacey was a great interview. We'll have to play that again. Now that's in context with what we're reading.
Nancy Ricks too. I'm gonna sue you.
Yeah, well, after that's when I said, "Oh, I got to email this guy," and so that's when I found out who it was, and because what I did is I just searched Nancy Rook's interview until I finally found it on YouTube, and then I found your website, and that's when I emailed you, because I saw all those Marty Lacker interviews and the other ones. I know, dude, we gotta share these, and I want to do this right. I have no, I've been struck before, but it was just my own stupidity. That was when I first started, and but Yeah, I'm glad you joined us today. It was some great input. That interview was, even though it was Dick Grove, it was still an informative interview, whether good, bad, or ugly when it comes to Dick. But um, you
Well,
know,
I had a good time like last time.
yeah, and like I said, anytime Saturday, this coming Saturday, these are the two things that we, where we talk about things like this is this Wednesday one and then the Saturday one where we're going to do the other two, finish off the Marty Lacker one. Then I'm going to have everybody. Um, I think there was one you mentioned the other day. I'll find out. I wrote it down. We'll play that too. But a lot of great people in there, man. I'm extremely thrilled to get the opportunity to listen to these interviews. I can listen to these better than I can watch something and listen to it. I get too distracted. You know, we've had some good ones.
Well, just
Well,
you want me to pop. Let me know when you want me to pop in, and
yeah, I'll just say, you, as far as Wednesdays and Saturdays, those right there, you can pop in anytime you want. If you're watching, say, hey, I'm going to pop in. If it's something that you got input on the Sunday one, if there's something we're going to talk about, I'll send you an invite. Just say, hey, if you're interested, pop in. If not, because we do all kinds of different things. That's kind of like the day I do trivia and stuff like that. But once again, you're always welcome to do that. And I'll create, if you do that, then what I'll do is I'll create a link that you'll be able to use no matter what studio we're in. So you can have your own link just to pop in.
okay, all right, buddy. And
All right, Joe.
All right.
Thank you, brother. Go well.
Get those things hid.
All right. All right. Bye-bye.
All right, have a good one.
Leave her. Damn buttons. Bye.
That was nice having him.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like a plan from Clark Griswold. Yeah, from National Lampoon's Vacation. Yeah, I enjoy having him here. He's got some great input, some awesome input to this thing, and he's a great interviewer. He knows how to get, the questions answered.
Yeah, I tell you, he's got way more patience than I'd have. Because hell, I wouldn't be able to go 10 minutes talking to a guy that talks so much BS.
I will say this though, I would, between him, Larry, and Joe, I would deal with Dick better than I would the other two. Dick he was just a blowhard.
I'm kind of on the.
And Joe and Larry were just, they were sensationalists. They're, I did well. I guess Dick's pretty much the same way too. They're the I people.
Yeah.
I did this. I did that. I was there first, and you get kind of tired of stuff like that.
Yeah, it makes no difference. They live their life with him permanently on a daily basis. That should be enough.
Yeah, you're right, Seacat. That's what I like about him is that well, you know how many interviews we've listened to in the past, older ones and ones even in later years. Some of the interviewers didn't have any clue what they were doing. They were stupid questions, like the one that said, I heard Elvis, you buy cars for people. Can you buy me one? Remember that? Oh, what an obnoxious jerk, man. I would have walked. If I was Elvis, I would have walked away.
Yeah, for sure.
That's not Elvis. Elvis wasn't that way. He just kind of made his remark and just moved on. No, you'll never get one now.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's some good cover. I think we got some decent covers there on that chapter. So we'll finish that one next week and then get back to the what is it? The King is Dead. So I'm hoping that the autopsy one goes through since I removed the music because I really want to see that all the way full and I want us all to see it. If not, then we'll just have to pick a day to do a Zoom where we can all watch it. Whether even if I have to do it a couple times, it's only 45 minutes. Anyways, 5 o'clock. a couple hours today.
Mhm.
And then tomorrow, I got the replay of Kid Galahad tomorrow night. That'll be at 6:00 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time for those who missed it or want to watch it again. And then we got Inside the Studio, some good songs for Saturday at noon, and then of course we got Watch Party and all the other stuff we got going. So coffee date and Decoded. I got something coming up on Thursday night. No, there will be no Zoom movie next Thursday because I've got something going on for Thursday evening. Any questions? Anything? Anybody got any comments? Y'all enjoyed it? We had a good group here today. Yeah, I saw Banjo Paul.
Yeah, it was nice having everyone here. Such a good group.
Yeah, I saw Olga in there. I think she was probably rising up to get ready for. I think she's going to bed. She's got the next up hours. But Olga, thanks for joining us. If you're still listening, I tried to get a hold of the questions. I hope. Yeah, did you send them a copy? No. That was good. Yeah. Kim, Fattening. Oh, great group. C-Cat. All right. Thanks, Patty. I'm glad you got to hear it. It was good. I like having Joe in his input and thoughts, you know. I guess he's going to sue me now, so I got to get my... No, he's a good guy. We got a lot in common.
But as usual, no, I was just going to say, but as usual, thank you guys for always being here and available to listen and your input and questions. And, you know, without you guys, we wouldn't have a show to do. So from our side, thanks again.
Yeah. And that's what makes it exciting. I'm excited about doing Friday night's radio show because I was sick last week. And I think Cam was sick too, weren't you? Yeah, it would not have been a pretty sight. But the naughty boy, the naughty. Oh, never mind. I'll get in trouble. The naughty show. That doesn't sound right either. Join us 9 to midnight Friday night, Eastern Daylight Time, Blue Moon Radio. You don't need application. You don't need email link. You just go to the email address, Blue Moon Radio, with Live 365 and listen. And if you want to join in the chat, you can, ask me for an invite to Discord. And if you've been with us for a while, I'll let you through. But you can still make song requests and hear the songs you request. And so that's all in the links. And I post those links on the Facebook group, and I post it on the postings on the YouTube channel, so everybody can access all those. And the radio is going 24/7, 365. So check it out. All right, guys, y'all have a great evening. I'm going to put together. We're going to be putting together the inside the studio in the next day or two. So TCB to everybody. Thank you all for your support. Like Cam says, if it wasn't for you guys, I'd be watching reruns of Andy Griffith. All right, guys. Have a good one. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.